Good evening, everybody. This is the June 11th meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Public Services Commission. And I'm going to start the meeting with call to order and Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, we didn't do that.
Thank you. I'll call the
I'll
roll.
be walking the bottom.
Thank you. I'll call the roll, but it does look like we have a quorum since everybody's here. So Kostick here,
you know.
Kennedy,
Here.
Schmidtke.
I'm present, sir.
Thank you. Stanko.
Here.
Biddle,
Here.
Pedestris,
Present.
and David Nadeau.
Here.
So we do have a quorum. You have the agenda, you've had the agenda in front of you. I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second. Moved and supported. You have the support, Derek?
Yes.
Yeah. If there are any additions or deletions, let me know. Hearing no comments, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We have two sets of minutes to approve. First, our February 13th meeting held this past winter. Several of us were missing, so neither myself, Ray, Les, we're going to have to abstain. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 13th of somebody that was here?
So moved.
Dave
Support.
moved, and Phil, you support it, okay.
Yep.
Are there any comments, additions, deletions from the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Next, we have the meeting of May 14th, and I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Is there
I will
support?
second those.
Schmidtke, supported. Are there any comments about those minutes? All in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have approval of bills and vouchers for the month of May. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. And these are all related to public services, water, sewer, refuse, and so forth. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion for approval of the vouchers. Is there support?
Support.
Who did that?
Me, sir.
Lenny? Okay. There are no questions. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we have a review of the statement of revenues and expenditures, which is up to date from the beginning of the fiscal year. It's just a statement of our revenues for a water system, sewer system, and our wastewater treatment plant and our refuse system. If there are no comments or questions, we'll receive and file that report. Item number 8 on our agenda is a treasurer's report for May of 2024. I'll make a motion for approval. Is there support?
Support.
Are there any comments? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The treasurer's report is received and approved. Next, we have public comment on our agenda. And I do note that we have a couple of people in the audience. Thank you for being here. Les Schmidtke, thank you for being here. If you want to comment on anything, please feel free to. We also have a visitor, Mickey Bartlett. Mickey's a resident of the island, and this evening before the meeting started, I had a chance to meet Mickey, and she informed me that she's running for trustee. So, and Mickey indicated she was here to learn about what this commission does. So we're gratified to have you here. And I don't know if you want to make any comments or anything of that at this point.
Is that okay?
It'd be fine with me. I think it'd be fine with the commission. We're glad to have somebody interested in learning about what we do.
So I talk fast, so I won't take much of your time. But yeah, so I'm running for trustee. I live on Voight, and I've been married for over 20 years, and my husband likes your story, Ray. And Brian is a coach. He works at Ford as a manager, but he coaches a girls softball team here. My kids are Nikki and RJ, and RJ's going to college this fall at U of M Dearborn, and Nikki's at Center for Creative Studies in Detroit. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice school. She's really good.
Someone's gonna design cars?
You know what? My husband's trying to talk her into that, but she loves the illustration, so she could do vehicles, she could do, books, and so, but yeah, she's doing really well.
Good for her. No, that's a fabulous, fabulous
Yeah.
place to go.
We just went out there and they picked one of her pictures to put in the student exhibition, and that's kind of unusual for a sophomore in college, so we were pretty proud of her.
If you stick around for the meeting, I got a couple of comments on that.
Okay, good. And then I can't forget Seth. I kind of adopted Seth during the COVID era, and I didn't let him go back home. And so he's like my third child, and he's a culinary chef. He's going to Henry Ford. He'll be graduating in December. And I was telling the others, if you go down to Sam's Club, there's a billboard for Henry Ford, and it has a chef's picture, and that's Seth.
Is it really?
It is. So look on the right-hand
That's
side
neat.
when you go to Sam's Club, and that's
That's
Seth.
neat.
Yeah, it was really cool to see it. As far as my ability to be a trustee and my background, I know what I don't know. And so I have a good business background. I was at Ford Motor Company, did their pension and savings plan, did global benefits for over 50 countries. What I haven't done is do what you're doing or a township trustee. So I thought I would just come to as many of these meetings as I can for the different groups and just kind of learn everybody's role in the event that I get elected. If I don't get elected, then I still learned a lot and it's still good. So, but yeah, so I'm glad I got to stop by and anxious to just hear how the meeting goes.
Well, we appreciate you being here. I would just say, glad you get to know you and glad you're here. And if anybody's watching who is also running for a trustee or any elected position, they're always welcome to our meeting. We think we're a pretty important body here because I don't know if you know what we do, but we work closely with the township manager. And we have the wastewater treatment plant and the sewer system, the sanitary sewer system.
Yep.
We also have the storm drain system, both ditches and storm sewers. We also take care of the roads. Fortunately, we got the road millage finally approved.
That's good.
We're also responsible for the refuse, and we're going to talk about this later
Are you?
tonight. We have all the good stuff, the garbage, the gutters, the sewers. And,
I just got new gutters. I
but
just
it-
got
but
a new
it's-
roof.
But it's all vital, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So the township manager's put together a little agenda for us to talk about where we're going in the next year. So planning some of these projects. So we're glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. And just to note that my first year of law school and property class, it was always the cases on groundwater. So I'm glad you're managing it, and because that's how we learn property law, the damage that groundwater can do if you don't handle it right.
Well,
So-
we've handled it right sometimes, and other times there have been some floods, but
Well,
we try
there's
to
some
deal
bad
with them
storms.
we try to deal with the problems as they arise. So
Aw,
thanks for
thank
being
you.
here. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's public comment, and next we have our wastewater treatment plant manager, Ryan Walsh. Ryan, if you'd like to come up and give us an update.
Hello, everyone. Sludge hauling is almost halfway there. They've been on site for 2 weeks. So the south sludge storage is almost empty. There's 2 feet left in there. And then after that, they'll move to the north side of the tank, so that it'll probably, I would expect that at the last week of this month, they'll be finished with that. And it's a little bit longer this year because they left us about 2 feet in the tank that they're hauling right now, so it's harder. They have to recirculate and add water and that. So, but regardless, it's moving along.
Good.
at the pace we want it to. So, the ACO work is on hold right now. There's not a whole lot which is happening. As I've been talking about, the final clarifier is about 90% complete right now. It's just kind of like miscellaneous, like small work. And our next project with the ACO work is our main effluent line of the plant, which connects the new final clarifier and the existing ones. It moves all the water out of the plant, so that connects the finals to the chlorine contact chamber, and that's our major line. But we have to wait until the sludge hauling is over until that can happen. So July 8th is when that work is actually supposed to happen, and that work has to happen in segments at the plant. So what we'll actually be doing is the plant, it has to obviously be low flows at the plant. We'll shut the plant off, back up a little bit if we have to use our EQ basin for storage, and then it can only be a maximum of 2 days, and then Compo will stop their work, and then we'll get the plant back online, and then once we get the flow back down, then we do it again. So it has to be in that kind of like segment work. So I would say it'd take maybe like a month for that work.
Oh.
But I've already talked with Eagle, the regulator, and we can meet all our sampling requirements at the plant, because we have to sample for 5 days minimum out of every week. So see, we have to meet that. I've already had a meeting with them on that. So
And when did you say this is going to happen? About?
after the holidays, so July 8th.
Oh, okay.
So that's
It'll start.
time, yeah, when sludge hauling will be over then, and that's why we have to wait on this, because sludge was the most important, to get that out of the plant. Beside that, nothing really at the plant. It's been low flows at the plant.
I have a couple questions, if you
Okay.
don't mind. Every month we get a report. And I know, Dave, you get the report. It's a detailed report from the operators at the wastewater plant. And Ryan, on your April report, you mentioned the sludge situation. And sludge is a byproduct of our treatment of the water. It's the solids that are remaining. Just looks like mud. Anyway, we store it at the plant, and we used to pump it out twice a year and cart it away. So then we went to, I don't know how many years ago, we went to the single act, and it's worked out pretty well. But this, you make a recommendation that you'd like to go back to the twice a year sludge removal. And I talked to the township manager about that, and I know I totally agree with that. And I don't think anybody else would have a problem. It's probably going to cost us budget-wise a little more, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you'd be basically just paying for one extra mobilization and demobilizing of the equipment. So now we haul once a year, springtime. So what we would do is just haul in spring and fall time. So March or April or September, October. And the way you look at that is when we haul once a year, we're paying for all those loads anyways with the landfill. So it's just you're doing half and half. You're just paying for an extra mobilizing and demobilizing. And it's just it's smart in my view, because we had an issue this year where our contractor was kind of late and we were getting up there in storage. And in my view, that's like our backup with Eagle and the regulators to say that, we're always only half full with solids, because if we get in a bad, where we can't get anybody to help us, then, it's not going to be good.
Ryan, what does that mobilizing cost approximately?
Um,
Right around like 20 grand, I think.
Okay.
One other.
yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
So that's about all it would be for them to just come.
And one other thing worth noting is Ryan had mentioned to me that with the new third clarifier that we have, we are going to be processing more through the plant potentially, so that the frequency in which we need to pump might increase because the quantity or the frequency or the amount of sludge that we generate is going to potentially be more. So in a
Will be-
case where we would
yeah.
normally discharge if we had basically
Heavy
an
rainfall,
event,
yeah.
where we couldn't handle it, now that technically should be retained at the plant and treated, thus more gets retained and more is generated throughout the year.
Yep.
Thank you. I had another question, and I talked to Ryan earlier today, and I'm going to ask him the question, and he can explain it to everybody. Under the report you provided, it says that the UIS SCADA, you had to replace, put a new meter in the inflow line. That's sewage coming into the plant. The cost was $9,935. This was sort of an emergency purchase. And I just wanted to point out that these things happen. And you want to explain what happened there?
With that one, it happened last fall. So our effluent meter is already faulty. It has been at the plant for a year or so. And Eagle was aware of that, but that's actually being in the works right now of being replaced hopefully after the ACO work. So we were just relying on our influent flow meter at the plant for all of our readings and loadings with the permit. Well, that one, it was faulty readings. So we had UIS look at the meter, and it was probably 15 years old, and it's an inline meter, so it's in the pipe. So at this point, either we would have had to shut the plant down and replace that whole section of pipe with an inline flow meter, which is expensive. I would say probably at least maybe 2 times as much as that, and then you'd have to shut down the plant. So UIS was able to provide us with this. It's like a radar Doppler flow meter, which it goes around the actual pipe. And Eagle, I checked with the regulators, we're all okay with that because it has to read within a 10% variance, and it was. So at that point, we had to, because we didn't have a reliable meter reading at the facility. So that was an emergency repair. And actually the correct ways were supposed to be having the readings at our effluent flow meter, which isn't working right now. So I got permission from Eagle to, in the meantime, we're using our influent flow meter. So this was an emergency repair that, we just had to do.
And you said it was about 15 years old, the meter itself.
The original one was, yeah. Yep.
And, our plant was built in the 40s, 1940s. And over the years, we've been spending $300,000 to $500,000 a year replacing pumps and equipment. That we have a schedule for doing that. And we also have this $10 million expansion going on to build a new, to add a third more capacity at the plant. We're under orders to do that by the state. I just thought I'd mention that. So, thank you. Is there any other comments for Ryan? Appreciate your update, Ryan.
Get the
That's all I
elevator
do.
going?
No. No, I guess we can work on that, but
The day after he's retired.
that's kind of low on the list, right?
Yeah.
We do stairs, keeps us nice and fit and
And
we're
then we
okay.
spent a lot of money on it, changing all the cables and
Exactly,
everything and
so
all
we
that
can
stuff,
just,
and then the damn
we can
thing
huff up the
don't work.
stairs. Exactly, so we're fine with it. Yep.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you, sir.
With that, next item on the agenda is manager's report. Well, we have an action item, recommended contract for continuation of a contract for crack and joint sealing, a contract extension. Derek, you want to cover that?
Yeah, if there's a motion and a second, then I can go into
Okay.
the.
Everybody's, who made the motion?
Here.
Motion for approval?
I'll second it.
All right.
So as the memo indicates, we have noticed, especially on those mill and fills or mill and resurface projects that were 2 inches in depth, which would have been canal, horse mill, and then I think a small portion of church. We've noticed some reflective cracking that's coming through from the base. What we would like to do in order to keep those surfaces in good condition and before the winter season where water could migrate into those cracks and then freeze and then cause damage, to keep those surfaces in good condition, what I would like to do is to do some crack and joint sealing on those roads in order to keep them in that good condition. I've spoken with the township engineer. There is still an open contract under last year's bid for the crack sealing that we did, that the contractor is willing to honor. There's a number of communities that were part of that contract last year that are going to extend that contract. Grozeal is being suggested as one to you this evening to do that. We do have about $85,000 in non-committed funds in our road maintenance account for this fiscal year, which we kind of put there as a placeholder. I think the way that this is written tonight is to utilize 75,000 of those funds to do that work, with the priorities being horse mill, a small section of church between the bridge and Meridian, and then there's a small bit on canal. Once that work would be complete, any remaining funds would be used on Hickory Circle and then go over to potentially Stout and Island. So that is what the proposal is for this evening. Asphalt was the low bidder for that work last year, and those bid results are attached in the sheets that are included with this action item. If you were to recommend this, it would go to the board for approval, likely at the next meeting, which should be, I think, the third or the fourth week in June. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
I've got one question. Derek, the shoulder work on West Road, can you describe what that is?
Yeah, so we received a number of complaints about the shoulder condition on West River Road between the wastewater treatment plant and Marlboro. We put in probably no less than 5 or 6 requests, maybe even 7 requests with the county to do shoulder work over there. Basically what it is, and if you recall, Commissioner Riley and his concerns with oversteer that we were dealing with on Church, you have a significant drop off from the shoulder where the shoulder material is almost completely gone. So somebody will ride that line, get off the road, and then have a difficult time getting back on to the point that they oversteer. So we expressed that concern to the county that it was a safety issue, and we had little to no response. I think that they were out maybe 18 months ago, maybe or so, John, if you recall. They did a little bit of work out there, and they were maybe only there for a day or two, and then they ended up departing and never came back, even though we made all those requests. So we had asked ASI to give us a proposal for that work. They decided against that. They didn't want to take on that task. So under our existing contract with Campo Brothers, we have labor and equipment rates that we can bind on contract. We're utilizing them to do some shoulder work over there, I think at the cost of about $6,000. We went ahead and bought the material directly from the supplier, so we'll pay, I think Stone Co. is where the material comes out of. It's a 28, 29X, 22X material. It's a specific type of of limestone material that'll go on the shoulder. But that work will be taking place actually probably this week between the wastewater treatment plant and Marlboro. And that we've had a number of residents complaining about that, as well as it preserves the condition of the road. You know, once you get the base material and the shoulder material that's gone, now all of a sudden the sides of the road start breaking off. So it's a safety and also a maintenance issue for which we're using maintenance funds for.
Derek, did you mention a Weston church in West River? You mentioned that? Or did I do that?
No, the shoulder work would be between the wastewater treatment plant and Marlboro.
Yeah, I understand that.
The Kraken,
There's a spot down by church that there's a big pothole that.
is there? Okay.
Yeah, well, and it's the shoulder.
Church and West River Road?
Yeah,
Okay.
make that turn.
We
Remember
can
that
take,
turn?
we can take a look at that. Church and Meridian, we did, I think, 3 inches or 3.5 inches from the bridge all the way to East River Road on the mill and fill on Church a number of years ago. Because the road was in better condition from the bridge to Meridian, we only did 2 inches in that area. And I think on some of the roads that we only did 2 inches, we are seeing that reflective cracking coming through, which for the benefit of the residents, if you had cracks on the lower base, that cracking will migrate to the surface and it will reflect onto the new surface. And it's always an issue with, could cause damage if water can get into that surface and it'll break it up. So that's why we want to seal that area.
This had been repaired once, and now it's back. It's,
That pothole there?
It
Yeah.
just seems to be, like you said, people go off the road a little bit, and you get in that rut, and then that pothole came back.
Yeah, we can take a look at that and see what we can do for that.
People are driving on an oval and not making a left turn.
Correct, yes. Especially if you get trucks and stuff, that'll cut that corner, yep.
Okay, so we have, the West River Road is separate from what we're dealing with. That's already underway.
Correct, yep.
So as far as the crack and joint sealing is concerned, the contract amount would be for $75,000. We have a motion to approve, and with seconded, and are there any other questions? Do you have any comment, John? Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we'll be doing that work.
That, and I think John can probably attest to this as well, crack and joint sealing pays huge dividends. It's money well spent because it really does preserve the longevity of the road. So makes it last significantly longer than if you allowed those things to go unchecked. So
I think it's good. And by the way, Mickey, can I call you Mickey? Just for your information, our engineers to several downriver communities, and they bid that joint sealing, crack sealing for the asphalt road surfaces and some concrete. They bid it with 5 other communities. So it's bid in Allen Park, but it includes Gibraltar, Riverview, Trenton, and us. So it's kind of a joint, you get a better bid that way.
Do you use the vendor to bid it, or like does somebody come in and handle it all?
Our engineers do that.
Your engineers?
Right. Okay? Okay, well, we have a lot to discuss under the manager's report, and I'll just let you carry on with what I think is a very timely and well-structured report for us. So, Derek?
yeah, I first want to give some credit to the DPS chairman because he had approached me about a week and a half ago and said, hey, we've done a lot as a commission and as a township to advance the infrastructure here within the township over the past 18 to 24 months. We have a number of projects that are underway and a number of projects that have been completed. And we've kind of gotten to the point now where we need to turn our eye towards the future, 18 to 24 months, and what projects we want to achieve. Also, wanted to take the opportunity to take stock of where we're at with all the projects nearing completion or significantly underway. We need to take a check of how much money we have remaining in some of these funds, especially bond proceeds and how those accounts sit. So attached to this packet was a memorandum that addresses a variety of different areas of DPS responsibility, one being solid waste, 2 being roads, 3 being water, 4 being drainage. We'll also talk about an event that's going to be occurring later in July at the Grosse-Ile Golf and Country Club. But first, let's get through these 4 different items. If you recall, I think probably in February, we had a brief conversation about solid waste and where we were at with our contract with Priority. The memo that was distributed to the commission in February was attached to this memo, just to refresh your memory about how that conversation, or what was included in that conversation. If you recall, real briefly, we had talked about not only waste hauling, but also waste disposal. At that point in time in February, I think a recommendation was provided to the board to extend a contract with Riverview Land Preserve for a 3-year term. That seemed like the best option at that point in time. And ultimately, the Township Board did go ahead and approve a new 3-year contract with Riverview Land Preserve. Any contract that is approved by the board first must go through a legal review. Just to update the commission, during that legal review process, there were some concerns that arose with regards to some of the verbiage within that contract. That verbiage that was of concern was specific to liability concerns, hold harmless concerns that Riverview requested Grosse-Ile Township to basically alleviate them of any responsibility and hold them harmless. Our attorney was negotiating with the attorneys with Riverview, and another issue arose with regards to our hauler's concern about that liability, because not only did that language in that contract say Grosse-Ile Township must hold harmless and absolve Riverview of any liability, but so does Priority Waste, or any hauler that hauls for Grosse-Ile Township. So not only was it an issue with Grosse-Ile, but it was also an issue with Priority Waste. So that issue is currently ongoing. The negotiations on that verbiage is with the attorneys. They're trying to figure out an amicable solution to those issues. But in the case that we aren't able to reach an amicable solution, once again, the disposal option with Priority is on the table. So the chairman of the commission, the treasurer, who also serves as liaison to the board, the supervisor, and myself met with Priority Waste a couple of weeks ago to further have discussions about rates for disposal and rates for hauling on a potential a new contract extension. When I wrote this memo, and actually up till today, I have not received those numbers yet, but if you recall from the memo that was distributed in February, that'll give you an idea for where we were kind of at with those numbers, and they were fairly competitive. We just asked them to sharpen their pencil some more. So the reason we wanted to talk about this was to advise you of where we're at currently with the disposal contract, and then where we will be going with regards to a decision on a contract extension and a potential disposal contract as well, with Priority potentially if we can't resolve this language issue that's currently in the agreement. What has also occurred since our last meeting in February, GFL, I don't know if you noticed in the news or not, was at least their residential service was purchased by Priority. GFL was the most likely other bidder for our waste hauling services. Other than GFL, there aren't really any operators that are putting in bids in the area, and the information relative to that, I think was in our last packet. GFL and Priority were the main players in this area. So Priority appears to be one of the only options in the area any longer now, with GFL being purchased by Priority. So that furthers, I think, the decision, or it should further decision as far as an extension is concerned. So I think what you'll probably see at our July meeting is a proposal for potentially disposal, but for sure a contract extension with Priority at a set number of rates, or a set rate for a period of time that you guys would then review and either recommend to the township board or not. I know the chairman had mentioned that maybe we want to formulate a commission that would review that, but I think if there is a desire to do anything other than what we currently are doing, that probably would have value. As my memo had indicated, Priority would like to move us to a cart for our recyclables, a 65-gallon cart. The residents would have to pay for that in the rates. There is some potential for grant funding for that, but I think it would only cover between 15 and 25%. So if we want to explore the other options other than the base services that we currently receive, I think that's where there would be value in some sort of commission. But I wanted to once again update you where we're at and then have a conversation about those things and answer any questions you might have. You know, Dave was at the meeting, Bill was at the meeting, and they could help me out with any of the conversation that we had with Priority, and I feel how they felt about how things were going. But that's where we're at this point, and what we'll be reviewing probably in the next 30 to 60 days. So,
Good update. Dave, do you have any comments?
No, that covers it.
The only comment I have, well, I probably got several. The last time, 5 years ago, when we bid the contract, and this was a 5-year contract, when you bid refuse, and Waste Management at the time was hauling our refuse 6 years ago, and they basically doubled their price. They went from 600 and some thousand to over 1.2 million.
And required the bigger totes.
And required the bigger totes. Good memory. We had a subcommittee, and I mentioned it to Derek. I thought, we wouldn't do that this time. We need to just bring it back to the commission, and we all share in the discussion. But it could be lengthy and technical. When we went through the interviews before, you were there, Phil. I think the interview of those firms, we spent, there were 4 firms, I believe. We spent probably 6 hours in interviews, going through the data with them. So, from my view, you know, you can either rebid it. So if you rebid it, you got to make a decision 4 months ahead of time. Other firms have to buy trucks and hire people to collect. The extension is easier, and what we're looking at, what Derek's looking at, is if the pricing is fair competitively with everybody else. And this gets a little tricky from my experience because two big issues have to do with transportation of the garbage trucks. What's the distance between stops? What's the distance between stops in Gibraltar or Allen Park, Lincoln Park, where you have 60-foot lots versus acreage lots here? And that takes time. And then the haul distance to the landfill. And so those are issues that they're going to come back with pricing that we can compare.
yeah.
And then this whole issue of the recycling carts, sure, it'd be nice that they didn't have to pick them up like they have to now, and papers wouldn't blow out of the cart, you know, the little blue boxes we have now. But a lot of people would resent having to buy in order to recycle one of those big containers. Where do you put it? Outside your garage if you don't have room, or if you don't have a garage? So that's not an easy issue either. And the only reason I mention it is that's something we're going to have to discuss.
Bill,
Yes?
my son has the big blue one, and not this past week, but the week before, the trash truck came, emptied the trash, reached over, grabbed the blue one, dumped it in the same truck as the garbage truck. And that was the same day that they took the lid off of my tote and threw it in the garbage. It disappeared. This is the 3rd time that they've thrown one of my lids away.
These are those ones we bought?
That's the ones that I bought.
You bought.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I called up there and talked to the girl up there, and she says, you have to call us the day it happens. I said, well, you got this gentleman down here by the name of Mark. I called him and went to voicemail and never got back with him. So I'm just SOL. But it kind of ticks me off that the same person has thrown 3 of those lids away. And what do you think they're on there for? They're on there to keep the stuff dry and to keep the stuff from blowing down the street. But then when my other son told me that He sat right there, stood right in the front window and watched the guy pick it up and throw all of his recyclables that he was careful to rinse and the papers and everything right in the garbage truck. I told her that and she says, oh, I don't believe that.
I'll tell you what, Les, I think, and I've had complaints too. I called John Keim, and John has the direct line with whoever their supervisor is that day, and that's the best way to handle it. Now, some feedback I've had, and this is not an excuse, but this is it's a reality, is they pay a pretty good wage for the guys that are working behind the garbage trucks, but they've grown so rapidly now that they have to go through a lot of employees in order to get people that are efficient. So, but I would say this: if I recall years ago here, every month we got a list of all the complaints, and the list would have 30, 40 complaints on it. What's your experience now, John and Derek? I mean, it's much less than it was, right?
About 5.
Yeah, it's probably 5 to 10. So, and we get I think the majority of them are probably missed pickups, either not generally a complete miss, but maybe a missed yard waste or a missed recyclables or a missed trash. We did have a rash of recyclables ending up at the trash truck probably, I'd say about a year ago. And that has occurred far less. They do have cameras on the trucks where they can go back and actually see what occurred. So I think it presents some accountability, to the drivers and the employees. So those occurrences have been far less probably in the past year or so. But yeah, reach out to us if you do have any issues. They're usually pretty responsive to concerns. I'm not going to say that they're perfect. I don't think anybody is perfect when it comes to that business. But if it's a reoccurring issue, obviously that is concerning that, we need to make sure that they're aware of.
Are we restricted in how many companies would service our area if these two companies have combined, and does it?
I think that there are operators in certain areas. In probably 10 years ago, you had Republic, you had Waste Management, you had Rizzo, you had Stevens. I'm sure I'm probably leaving another one or two of them out. Waste Management, for the most part, isn't servicing this area any longer, and their business model is one that isn't attractive to Groseal Township. I think we addressed that under the last bid. They wanted to restrict the residents not only to number one, they would have to use carts, the 95-gallon carts, and trash would be restricted to just using that cart. So there'd be only bulk service maybe once a month or something like that, which would be anything outside of those containers. And their bid came in, I think, at like $1.2 million, and our bid with priority was, I think, around $600,000 or something like that. So they're almost double. Since then, Waste Management has kind of removed themselves from residential service in this area. They occasionally will bid in specific communities where it fits their logistical model or whatever. But still, again, you're dealing with a much higher cost based upon bid results, and also an altercation, an adjustment in the way that our waste hauling would be handled. So Waste Management is, I don't know that that's necessarily an option for us. When you take a look at recent bids like in, Riverview or Wyandotte or Flat Rock or Gibraltar, GFL and Priority were the primary players in those nearby communities. And obviously with them merging, now there's only one option. Stevens doesn't seem to be bidding anything in this area. GFL bought Republic's residential solid waste program. It sounds like Rizzo has started back up again with a company called, I believe, Titan, but they've only bid on one community in the past, couple of months. So they're, in a situation where they only have one current community. So the likelihood of them bidding may or may not be good for us. The options are fairly limited. There's nothing that says we can't bid. I think the risk you have there, though, is, if you go to bid, you have the potential that cost could actually go higher than what you're able to negotiate with the current vendor. I know that I had a phone call recently from I think it was Woodhaven, and they were a GFL customer, and their contracts got absorbed by Priority under the merger or under the purchase, and I think that their overall feeling of that was a positive one because their experiences with GFL were not positive. So I think they were a bit relieved that that was taking place because they anticipated better service with the Priority Waste, which is our current provider. So it's a lot to digest. I know there's a lot that goes into bids like this, but I think we have a very strong feeling that they're going to be our best partner and probably one of our only partners that would have interest in bidding. It's just a bad time right now for waste hauling. It seems like there's a lot of consolidation under one vendor, which is never good. We want to have, choice in things because it helps out with pricing, but it's not a great time.
Well, Derek, I heard that Detroit, Priority has gone into Detroit.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're in Flint, they're in Detroit. I think they have half of the city. And yeah.
Side of Detroit.
Yep, and then they just picked up all the communities that GFL was servicing, and a lot of those were Southeast Michigan communities.
So the one thing that, when we did do this last 5 years ago, I think you'll remember, they did fulfill their commitment to us. And they're the ones that recommended, and when I say fulfill their commitment, they bought the trucks. They had all new trucks, and so they brought the fleet in. I've experienced where we bid it before, and they had old red, not with Priority, but in my career in the past, old trucks that were leaking oil all over, hydraulic fluid and so forth.
And the chairman and the liaison had the opportunity to meet with Priority. I think probably would be wise at a minimum, once we get a proposal for them, when we consider that proposal here with the commission, maybe we'll have Priority come in and talk to you. You can express your concerns to them and let them address them, so that the residents can get answers directly from Priority, and you can ask them any questions or voice any concerns that you might have, because I think that they do a fairly good job for Groseal Township. It's a dirty business. You're going to have mistakes and hiccups that are going to occur, but once again, as I've always said, they do a pretty fair job of addressing the concerns that come up, and I think we're fairly satisfied from a staff standpoint that they do that.
Derek, one of the things, I've dealt business with all these on a commercial business, right? With Republic, with Waste Management, and lastly with Priority. One of the things that I saw when Priority got the business, and they maintained it, I want to say for at least a couple of years, is they would have a crew follow around in a pickup truck, all right, on pickup days to make sure that things happened. And if there was misses, they would be out there picking them up. And, the crew would stop by the hardware store, on most occasions during the week, just to chit chat or whatever. I never saw that with Republic, never saw that with Waste Management. The commitment that they had was they wanted to do a good job because they wanted to build their business, which they have been successful in doing so, right? And, part of it's a learning curve. They had to understand the business. They had to understand, what, we were really looking for, besides what was written, but, more or less the service aspect. So I think they're still a good company to work with, all right? And I think they're far better than anybody else that's still in the business now, which has all been consumed by, the buyouts and things of that nature, so.
Okay, good comment. Any other comments? All right, so I guess the point is we will be back for our July meeting with more information, updated information on this
Right.
issue. Okay?
Second one we wanted to talk about were road and bridge projects for 2025 and 2026. I think probably more of a focus on road projects necessarily than bridge projects, because the bridge project picture is a little bit more murky because it involves the county, and there's always changing going on with regards to how their planning works. But what we do have control over is our road capital projects within the township utilizing township funds. So just to give you a picture of where we're currently at, what we have remaining of cash in bank from the original bond amount as of the publication of this memo was right about $2.2 million. I'm on page 23 of the packet. We do have about $1,300,000 remaining in outstanding invoices that have yet to be paid for the asphalt work and also the concrete work that we're finishing up this spring and summer. So if you take those debts into account, we'll be sitting at about $905,331 of remaining cash from the original bonded amount that we received. We receive about $1 million in annual revenue from our millage that was graciously passed by the voters of Grosio Township. Of that $1 million, about $573,250 is utilized to satisfy that bond debt. So what we have remaining after that bond debt is satisfied annually is $426,750. So what we have available to spend currently would be the remaining $905,000 of bond revenue, and then annually $426,750. So what we wanted to have a conversation about this evening is moving forward, what projects would DPS like to entertain in the next probably 12 to 36 months with not only cash on hand, but also annual revenue that we receive through the balance between the millage amount and the bond payments that we have. Just to give you a little bit of a starter, based upon knowledge that we have from the department about needs, there are a number of roads that are probably in need of at least a mill and resurface. That includes Elba, Stout, Island, Park Lane, north and south of the bridge, and then potentially Meridian north of the bridge, but ultimately that is a road that would be eligible for county financing, so that might not be something we want to spend our money on. Additional work that is probably needed is we always have a need for concrete work. We continuously struggle with the concrete conditions that the concrete material that was put in from 1995 through 2008 presents us with a lot of joint failures and crumbling concrete, where the jointing and the pad replacements have been utilized to try to correct. The most recent work that we did, I think this past spring, people were very excited about that work that was done, and they've really come out of the woodwork when it comes to wanting to have concrete work done within their neighborhoods. So I think prioritization of some concrete work too would be beneficial to keep that project running as much as we possibly could. So wanted to have a brief conversation regarding capital projects with those remaining and ongoing funds, and whether the commission has certain priorities that they would like to see addressed on a current and ongoing basis.
So with that, if we'll go down the table and see if anybody's noticed anything that should be addressed, to put on the list. You want to start with Les? Down you, Les?
Well, I know one, but I'm not gonna say.
Why?
No, please. Coming up later.
My street.
Next item.
I didn't hear you. What was it?
Grosio Parkway,
Grosio Parkway, the gravel part.
front of his house.
Okay. Oh, that street.
Yeah, that street.
Without the sign, okay.
That place. He got a sign, now he's on to the next one.
Benny, how about you?
My 2 cents would be, the localized concrete work is making a huge difference in the neighborhoods. And if we can focus on that, there's a lot of bang for the buck in that. So that's, the main roads, it seems like they're improving substantially. The focus now is when you get off those roads onto the concrete roads, it feels like the new paved roads before they were paved. So now you notice that difference. And the concrete, as Derek indicated, based on that tenure, we're having issues with that tenure of concrete, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So if we do something every year and start getting a chunk of that over some period of time, we'll make some big improvements.
Ray,
No, I think you guys have got it covered.
go.
I think we need to be thinking about Meridian between Parkway and Grow at some point in time, as to whether we can lean on Wayne County for that or get some firm response from Wayne County, because I think that area is will be more in need of repair than Meridian north of Bridge.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Said from a person living South End.
What's that?
You're a South End guy. Us North End people have the opposite view. Where's our northern folks?
But
No,
I mean,
I feel I'm teasing, by the way.
yeah, I understand. But I mean, I've been looking at that and that road, that area of Meridian. Now I understand that Wayne County is planning to do Meridian between, continue further north up to Bridge. But if we could possibly lean on them to do that section there, I think, because if they don't, I think we're going to need to be doing it.
Anything else?
No.
I agree with Phil. I mean, I drive it and I see that it's starting to deteriorate, as well as West River Road from the county bridge to Grow. That's starting to show, has a lot of cracks and need of joint sealing on it. You know what I'm talking about, John? Yeah. In addition to the culvert bumps that you go through, but that's always been an issue there. But it's not an urgent issue, but it's deteriorating before our bloody eyes. Linda?
Well, I agree with Lenny. I think that
Right on.
it happens it's happening in our neighborhood that they're doing some concrete over by ACL. And all the main roads are great, so that's the only place left. I mean, other than the ones that the county has to.
And
Right.
Dave?
I mean, I agree with Phil about, I spend most of my driving on this island between Macomb and Grove, up and down a couple times a day. It needs some work.
Okay.
It will definitely need some work in another 2 years, maybe. But hopefully the county will decide to add that to
Okay.
the others.
And I would add, for concrete work, Manchester's got some sections now that are in bad shape, John. Again. And we've done a lot of work on Manchester over the years, as well as Gray's Drive by the high school. And in front of Park Lane Elementary, do we have anything, is it going to be done this year or no? It's not under the contract?
Nothing for this season.
Yeah, we're just about wrapped up with concrete work, but I know what area you're talking about, and I think we stayed away from that because we knew that they were gonna have some construction work going on in the next, 12 to 18 months over there.
Started.
Yeah, so,
Okay, we'll have to keep an eye on that, because that might be something we want to add to the list, at least some of the narrow joint concrete,
yeah,
18-inch pads and so forth.
Maybe the
Some of
schools
it
will build
already.
it into their budget for.
Yeah, that's a good dream.
The,
So-
the county did, just to echo what you guys are mentioning, the county did confirm, and I think on numerous occasions, that, that they do not have the funding and they do not have the planning, the plans to go into any neighborhoods to do any kind of work. So, that's why we try to stay away from Meridian, just for the residents' benefit. Obviously, we got to go in there if they're not willing or able to do it, but we'd rather spend that money, if at all possible, in the neighborhoods that we know they're not going to go into ever. So, and I think, to your point, all your points, the concrete programs have been very well received. As a matter of fact, I meant to send you some emails, or at least include them in the packet, from some of the residents that had emailed me that were very, happy about the township being responsive to their concerns through that program. And, even to the extent where they couldn't believe that this actually had happened in their neighborhood. They never thought it would. And that's what we try to do, be as responsive as we can to address legitimate problems. And the concrete program really has allowed us to do that in some areas that have been pretty bad for a long period of time. So, I would also agree that, to be able to continue that program would be a good thing, and address problems for a long-term solution.
Yeah, we'll have this 425,000 a year to assist with that. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility, although that doesn't go far with concrete work.
Correct. Yep.
Asphalt.
And so the one point on all of this, and this is a great analysis, so it gives us an idea of the money. This is something you want to save, everybody, for future reference.
Mm-hmm.
But by October, we need to come up with a plan. What are we going to do? And we do that so that it can be bid in January. Get better prices in January than you do in May. So, at any rate, we'll be working on that, and everybody's got to keep an eye out for the roads you're driving on, okay?
Right, yep, and that's where you can help us out, is if you identify a location, just jot it down or shoot me an email. We usually keep a running list throughout the year. I mean, I can tell you a couple right now. I had an individual that got a hold of me about Park Lane, north of Grays Drive. Manchester is another one. Got a couple other that we've gotten emails that we went out and looked at it. As a matter of fact, Lenny by your house is an area we would like to get to. That's really busted up in there. You know, there's a lot of areas that we're aware of where we could spend that money, you know, and it'll make a big difference, so.
Before we leave the roads, Derek, I know you've had discussions with the county. I don't know what you can tell us, what you think you know about Meridian, but also Elba Bridge and the Ferry Road Bridge. So do you have any updated information?
As far as I know, last I had heard, and it's been a while, Ferry was slated for late summer, early fall this year. Elba was supposed to start over the winter time, but my understanding is that's been pushed to next year. They don't have any money scheduled for this year to do that work there. So that was supposed to have already started, and it hasn't. So, and then Swan was supposed to be, I think, 2025 or 2026, but I don't know where that stands either. Everything, it seems like, is a bit in flux with the county, with their funding. I think what occurs is they come across other issues that they need to prioritize their spending elsewhere in the county. Not to say Grosse Ile isn't important, but just like the Grosse Ile Free Bridge was prioritized because it was an immediate concern and it wasn't usable, they had to transfer money to that location to address that concern. I think Trenton Viaduct is an area that they've had to maybe scrub some projects that could be, you know, could wait in order to prioritize that money for something that couldn't, and that's my suspicion of what's going on there. But I don't know, John, if you have any other insight to
Nothing
that.
further, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, in Elba, I know we have a water main we have to relocate, right?
Correct. We
Have any
engineers working on that currently.
Who is?
Our engineers.
Okay. Is that going to go on the bottom of the water there?
A couple options they're looking at right now. One is directional drill on the south side of the bridge, or one is right down the middle, depending on when Wayne County's coming.
Do you have any future meetings with Wayne County on,
That's where the
to
water
talk
main's
about
at
the
now,
bridges?
South side of bridge.
Further south.
We talk to them and their engineers on a regular basis,
Close
but,
to the bridges, right
and we
underneath
work
the
with the
buffer.
engineers on coordination of
moved.
utilities and whatnot. We, I have to say, probably talk to them every 2 or 3 months,
Right
so.
underneath it.
Would it help if this commission were to adopt a resolution urging them to continue? I mean, it takes it away from you and the supervisor. You think about that.
Okay.
We can always deal with it next month,
Mhm.
but sometimes, at least it gives them an opportunity to say, this commission, you know, they're a bunch of nuts and they're trying
Anxious
to move forward with
yeah.
these projects. That would take it off your shoulders and put it onto ours, so.
Yeah, we can, John and I can talk about that a bit and see whether it would help out, so. So we just talked about the capital projects with the road fund. So there actually is a different pot of money for the benefit of the residents. In their information, we have a maintenance account as well. And that maintenance account comes from a small maintenance millage that existed prior to the road millage that was passed, I think, 18 months ago or so.
Right.
That maintenance millage generates about $285,000 per year. From those funds, we utilize those dollars for dust control, snow plowing and winter maintenance, and roadside maintenance, which after those expenditures that we incur annually, we have about $85,000 remaining, usually in a fiscal year. This year, we just talked about using that money for crack and joint sealing, but we have the discretion each year to use that as we see fit. And it can be used for road maintenance, which would include concrete work potentially. So you do have the potential to take that 85,000 and add it to that 426, or do other preventative maintenance work like shoulder work or crack and joint sealing or other projects. So keep that in mind as well. You can leverage that money for actual, work on roads too. So keep that in mind.
Okay,
Okay.
guess we're gonna leave the road and go to Dallas Court.
Yeah, Dallas Court. So we're all aware of the issues associated with Dallas Court. Many of the residents were dissatisfied with the chip seal work that was done on Dallas, specifically the rough condition of the road. There was quite a bit of loose material, I think, after the original application. The contractor did come back eventually and sweep that road to remove some of the material. But I think more than anything, the residents were dissatisfied with the condition still because of the rough feel and look of the road. So what we did is we went out and we solicited ASI to give us a price under our existing contract for the other asphalt work that we were doing, and to mill and resurface that road with a 2-inch resurfacing. They gave us a quote of about $100,000 to do that work. The contractor that did the chip sealing was aware and is aware that we were unhappy with the product on that road, and specifically the lack of adherence of the chips to the road surface itself, which I think was the main concern. They have offered to come back and refog that road, so not add more material, because I think that would continue to aggravate, the overall surface condition, but to refog, which would hopefully lock down some more of that chip material and keep it from coming loose. That was something that they would be willing to do at their cost. So we do have a couple of different options. We could move forward with the mill and fill, but it is at a significant price, $100,000. We could have the contractor fulfill their obligation that they've offered to refog that road, or just leave things as they are. I know there had been some conversation internally about planning on resurfacing that road after a couple of years, once you would normally see a new chip seal that would occur on a road that had been chip sealed before, where basically that coating has been worn off or no longer is providing value. That way those residents would get a new surface. It would just be after the chip seal had worn off. But we wanted to bring this up before the commission so that you guys have the opportunity to discuss the various options and provide input on what direction you think would be best to go with it. So,
And I'm gonna ask you in a minute, but I've driven the road several times since our last meeting. And Phil,
On Dallas?
I know you have. Number one, we gave them a good new surface. The road's fine except for whatever loose stone is on the edges of the road. As a matter of fact, some of the driveways are in really bad shape, especially going over the culverts where there are ridges. At any rate, when we do a chip seal, now we tried to do this in a neighborhood and it didn't succeed because the people don't like it. There's not enough traffic volume to press the stone down and get it to adhere. So the residents were upset about that. But right now they got a good road, Les. I'm looking for you to respond in a minute, but because you live in that area. But my thought is when you do a chip seal, what we learned is about every 4 or 5 years you got to go back and chip seal. And my thought is we don't want to do that in Dallas. But what we could do is put some money away, or just figure that 4 or 5 years from now we'll go in and do the mill off a couple inches and give them a new surface. And we bid it with some other work. Hopefully it wouldn't be $100,000. But that's kind of my thought. I mean, we're just brainstorming things right now, what to do.
Well, I don't know. There's only a couple of people that were really complaining about it. I don't know how many, but what I could see of the road, it's a good road. And I think when they put the chip seal down, it was too cold, too late in the year to do it. That's why he's got a problem. Because I remember when we went down to Monroe and talked to those guys down there, they did it in the summertime, and they had to have a certain temperature. And if you got too cold, it's not going to do good.
But when he came back in the fall and added the other, was it later in the year when it was cooler?
He did,
Remember that?
he did Dallas and he did Bridge in September.
Right.
And we had, I think, similar issues on Bridge too with a lack of adherence. We had a lot of chip remaining on the shoulder and on the fog line area.
I remember asking him that question when he gave the presentation, because over in New York, they do it in the hottest part of summer. And he said, no, that wouldn't make a difference. I remember him saying that, and I just kind of shook my head, but
Yeah,
it does make a difference.
and I think he did make the comment about it's less of an issue when the temperature is rising. You know, let's just say it's in the spring and the temperature is continually going up. You know, but in the fall, I think that the opposite is occurring. You're having falling temperatures where that causes issue. You know, the ground is getting colder. It's not getting hotter. It's not retaining temperature and getting up to temperature quicker throughout the day. It's actually getting cooler, right? So I think that's a very valid point. And I think it's not just Dallas, but it was Bridge that we had the same issue with when it was applied at the same time of the year.
And I'd like to suggest if they do come back to refog Dallas, then refog Bridges as well, at their cost.
Yeah.
And sweep both of them prior to application.
You know, John, I was thinking maybe with Dallas, it'd be best to leave it, do nothing,
It'll help seal those chips in, what's there.
without cars driving on it.
Yeah, it'll help it,
Yeah,
especially at his cost. I mean, if he's been willing to do it, and which he
Wouldn't
should.
hurt. It's not gonna hurt.
Could they run a roller over it after they refogged it? Probably want to do it before they refog it. Help them pack it in, then seal it in. But I think it's pretty much compacted now. Let's just get that extra loose gravel that's on the edges off, and then reseal it.
Yes, I fear that it's just going to raise the whole issue again if we go in and do anything.
Well,
we can't-
Like Les
I
said,
guess-
you only got 3 people complaining. I mean,
Well, and you look at it, the option is we're talking about maybe milling that section in 2 years or something.
5 years.
In 5 years. So between now and 5 years, leaving it alone and not doing anything versus having the contractor refog it, which doesn't cost us anything. At least wise, it's an attempt to try and make it better, which we gotta believe is better than just leaving it alone, right?
absolutely.
All right, make a point. So I guess it doesn't have to come back to us. I guess it would be something administratively you guys can decide with the engineers.
Okay. All right.
That sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
I think Derek was looking for direction about, do you want to proceed with that avenue or mill and fill at this time? I think is what the question is.
Well, I don't want to mill and fill because we gave them a good road. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
I'd recommend fogging it again in
Yep.
in the warmer months.
So would I.
if you guys can work it out, then that's the sense of the commission. And if people complain, you can have them come to our commission.
Okay. All right, water is an additional topic we wanted to discuss. If you all recall, we're currently doing a water asset management plan and a reliability study. The water asset management plan is similar to the sewer asset management plan that we did over the past 3 or 4 years. That water asset management plan is about 30% complete. The estimated completion date on that is January 1 of 2025. What the asset management plan will allow us to do is to provide, an overall assessment of the condition of the water mains and provide to you as a commission and us as administration a priority of capital work to do. And that's based upon criticality of the asset, condition, age, construction material. With that asset management plan, we do have some money that will be available to act on that asset management plan. Under number 5 is a synopsis of the funding and financing that we will have available within the next 24 months to work on that asset management plan. We actually have 2 bonds that are expiring over the next 24 months. Bond 1 expires in October of 2024. That is the last payment. Our annual payments on that bond are $194,104. And then bond number 2 expires in October of 2025. That's the last payment we'll be making on that. And that annual payment is $245,000 per year. If we take a look at rebonding using the budget availability from the 2 expired bonds, we would achieve the following project capacity. The bond expiring in 2024 will afford us a project, the ability to fund a project of approximately $2 million, and that's at 15 years at 5.5%. And then in October of 2025, the retirement of that bond will afford us the capacity to borrow about $2.5 million, once again being calculated at 15 years and 5.5%. So we'd have about, over those 2 years, we'd have about, $4.5 million worth of water main work that we would be able to do. Our expectation is that we're going to have to do work at Elba Island to move that water main. That will likely probably occur before this bonding would take place, so that might just come out of capital reserves. But likely Hickory Island is probably going to rate high. And then from there, we would probably move on with the remainder of the AMP priority list that the engineers would generate for us. So over the next 24 months or so, this is kind of what we would have available and how we would plan to spend those dollars.
That's a great analysis. I appreciate that. But I do recall when we did the water main project 2 years, when we did when we pulled the section on Meridian, put the 12-inch main in, we couldn't do it all. So there was an area, you, John, do you recall?
North of Bridge Road.
That Cardinal?
What was it again?
It's Meridian from Bridge to Annette.
On Meridian.
Meridian.
Place that main.
Correct.
So that has to be added to this.
That'll be part of the AMP program, for sure.
Yeah, our expectation is the AMP would probably tell us that those are 2 areas that we're going to have to address. And I think that section on the north end was 800,000,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Okay.
And then Hickory, I'm not sure what that would be, probably
So tell me what Hickory Island, I thought
4
they,
million.
tell me what you're thinking on Hickory.
Bayview side, Bill.
Yeah.
What's that?
The Bayview side. We only did the East River side.
Oh, so the East River side is the circular part of it. And then when you go over the bridge, it's to the right? All right.
Yeah.
Didn't we create a special, John, didn't they create a special assessment district for the Hickory? Or did we do it without a special assessment?
We did it.
Okay, I'd forgotten that.
I've got a comment.
Yeah.
Derek, is this refinancing? I remember when we were selling the road millage project, we were touting the fact that the taxes are going to go up, the millage, but then these bonds are going to fall off and the millages would come down.
These are revenue bonds, so they don't have anything to do with any of the millages. So we pay these out of revenues from water sales.
Okay.
So they don't have anything to do
These
with.
aren't the bonds we were talking about when we were selling a road millage.
These aren't tax.
Okay.
Tax bonds. They're not
Okay,
millage-related
got it.
bonds. Yeah.
Got it. Just wanted to clarify that.
You're thinking about the sewer. On the sewer side of things is what's fallen off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yep.
big issue. The
Yeah.
big sewer project.
Right.
Good question, though. Anything else?
We'll be able to talk more intelligently about this with more complete information once the asset management plan is complete. But these are our expectations, and so we'll have to talk about financing. These are real rough numbers. Don't hold me to these. I just wanted to put them on here as a ballpark. We'll have to talk to bond counsel and stuff and see what actual rates are going to be. We'll have to talk about whether it makes sense to, bond 2 million and then 2.5, or just wait and do 4.5 at once. My suspicion is it's probably 4.5 million at once, because you're going to get a lower rate, and also your bonding costs are, spread across a larger number versus issuing 2 bonds. You have bonding costs on two issuances. So my guess is it's probably going to be 2025. We do the bonds then, and then we move forward with projects probably in late 2025, something like that. So.
That's good work, good information. Next, item number 6.
Wastewater treatment plant, and we had talked about that earlier with Ryan's comments. What we would like to do, and at the suggestion of the chairman, and I would definitely agree with him, what we're proposing is to hold our meeting a bit early and do it off-site, at least the beginning portion of it at the wastewater treatment plant. July 9th is our next meeting. Hold that at 6 o'clock and hold it at least for the first hour at the plant. That way the DPS commission can review the improvements that have been taking place at the wastewater treatment plant, review the new final clarifier that was installed, and then any additional work, the lift pumps and the primaries and any other items that have been worked on through the ACO and otherwise. So that is the suggestion at this point, to hold the meeting there starting at 6 on the 9th.
So we would just basically do a field tour and then come back here and reassemble. If that timing works out with all the other activities going on, but the sludge removal will be done.
Yeah, I did speak with Ryan about it before I proposed this in this memo, and he was available on that date to take us through, so.
So how many of you would be available for the 6 o'clock? Everybody?
It's still Tuesday.
I'm out of town.
The 9th is Tuesday, right?
Yes, it's the same meeting date.
I believe I'm gonna be out of town too.
Les?
I believe I might be out of town. I have to look at my calendar.
Okay. How do you react to those of you that would be here? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay with it?
Those that
Sounds
won't-
good.
aren't
Yeah.
here, you okay with? I know
I'm out of town.
You can
so
go anytime, right?
I'm-
I mean, you can go tour it anytime you want, really. But
Not
But
like you've never.
should we,
I'll-
if
I'll
we
make
put
it
it
that
off
day.
till August, does it change? I mean, are we ever? It's
We
just an
can
idea.
put it off to August,
we
it's,
have to go with
you
the
know, it's
committee.
not something that's immediately necessary.
Okay, Linda won't be here in August. Well, we could do it, for those that can't make it, we could make special arrangements.
Sure.
I think with so much construction's going on there, and then we've completed all the big projects that were separate, that we've done, like the primary settling tanks have all been reconstructed with all the pumps.
Mhm.
And that's in the lower 40-foot deep basement of the plant. That work's all completed now.
Mhm.
And, but that's unrelated to the ACO work.
Yeah, we've probably got, year-to-date, probably have, or bond-to-date, we probably have about $6 million of work that's occurred over there in the past 8
So if
months.
you'd like to move forward with that, just to see what's going on.
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah,
I'm
Okay.
fine.
Go.
yep.
All right, we'll try to schedule it.
Okay. I believe the last item is drainage. Double check. Yeah, so the current position that we're in, we have about $126,000 of cash in bank. Annual revenue from our millage is $235,231, and that's brought in December of each year. Below, on page 24, is the budget summary for the 2024-2025 budget year. We have $30,000 budgeted for roadside ditching. We've spent about $6,100 so far. $15,000 budgeted for drainage over at Easter Road and Church. Drainage at Bridge and Meridian, $10,000. We've spent about $5,000 there. Meridian and Rucker, $10,000. We haven't spent any money in that area yet. Hawthorne and Meridian, $25,000 was budgeted, and we spent about $19,000 so far there. Other storm repairs that we've incurred so far this fiscal year: work on East River Road of $6,000, cleaning out various culverts, $2,100. Some work on the storm sewer over at Stout, $1,800. Manchester, about $4,000 for some structure repairs, and work over on some drainage in Hawthorne. That's culvert and structure drainage. That was $10,000 estimated. In the budget, we have $80,000 for the drainage grant. We spent about $21,000. $25,000 for engineering is budgeted. We spent about $3,200, and $15,000 in permits. We haven't spent anything yet. So our annual budget this year was about 210,000, of which we spent 74,000. So currently we have about $135,404, $404 in remaining balance within the current fiscal year. We didn't budget to the full capacity of the millage amount that we were going to be receiving this year. We were about 25,000 short on the expenditure against revenue side. And we did that intentionally to try to put a little bit more money remaining in the bank, or to put more money into the bank. So long as we stay within the budget for this fiscal year, we should be fine and shouldn't have to tap those capital reserves, which is kind of my suggestion, to make sure that we retain those funds in order to provide kind of like a rainy day emergency fund if we come across a drainage issue that's severe, as well as having operational capital. Because we only get paid once within the fiscal year in December, it's good to keep some money in the bank for ongoing expenditures, although we can borrow from various funds within the township, which will then end up being repaid when those cash payments come in from the tax revenue. It's always good to retain some money in the bank. So I think my suggestion is to stay within our budget for the fiscal year that we currently have, and not spend our millage revenue. I will go on record and say that Detroit Gradall, who has been doing our roadside ditching and also our historic drainage way maintenance work, has been an excellent partner. Not only does he provide tremendous value in the service that he provides, but also his work quality is fantastic. We would like to continue and should continue to take advantage of his work by planning to continue to work on maintenance of existing drainage courses throughout the island and the roadside ditching. Roadside ditching does get a bit more expensive because there is a trucking aspect to that. So not only do we have to pay for the excavator, we also have to pay for the trucking. And then a third component to that is hydro seeding. So we have to come back in and restore afterwards. So whereas, a 2-week project in an area that we don't have to do any trucking or restoration will cost us only a fraction of the roadside ditching. So, maybe focus a little bit more on the drainage courseways and a little bit less on the roadside ditching, just to preserve those funds until we build them up a little bit more and can address the roadside a little bit more aggressively. But John has worked extensively with Detroit Gradall on a lot of the projects, and I think he can probably speak to the effectiveness and the value and the difference that that's really made in the community as far as drainage systems.
Yeah, he's done an outstanding job for us. Currently, he's working through the Hawthorne drain, heading out towards Meridian and Manchester. He should be daylighting out onto Manchester probably tomorrow. And that has made one huge difference in that drainage.
Oh, yeah, the
coming through
residents
Hawthorne.
were flooding, and they're very happy
Good.
with that drainage work. It's part of the Frenchman's Creek drain,
Right.
and that's good work.
So a great thing to take note is there is a bridge right past Hawthorne on the west side of the road. That bridge was there because there was a creek in that area, and there's a drainage course that goes through that area. You don't build a bridge across anything other than that. That drainage system drains a far area to the north, a lot of area to the north of Hawthorne. That bridge, underneath of that bridge, there was maybe 6 inches of difference between the ditch and the bottom of that bridge. So obviously it hadn't been cleaned in God knows how long. He's able to restore that, to allow that water to move through that area as it historically has, and that bridge will actually now serve as a actual bridge. I mean, it will continue to cross a path, a drainage way that hasn't been an effective drainage way in a long, long period of time. So it's really mind-boggling, that we're actually clearing that out to make sure it functions as it has always intended and always had been, just it hadn't been maintained in forever. And for the cost of $22,000 to restore that drainage course is a tremendous value.
They cleaned underneath the bridge?
I think he's done as much as
He's working on it currently. He should be done tomorrow.
Yeah, because coming down here tonight, we kind of wondered if they had taken the bridge out or not, but
Oh, no.
when Lester with me down there, we stopped and looked, and we could still see the bridge.
Yep.
But that bridge is from the old Lowry farm.
Yep. Yep, and a lot of these drainage courses that we're cleaning out are the old farm drainage courses that when the township was built up, they continued to use these courses. They were integrated into the neighborhood drainage systems. It's just they haven't been maintained in forever. So we see as we go through these areas, the old relics of the old drainage systems. You know, back behind Manchester, there's another bridge, obviously, off East River Road. Once again, crossed a historic drainage way, which we worked on probably 2-3 years ago.
Yep.
And it's given tremendous, benefit to that area. So,
Derek, I think sooner or later they're going to have to think about going from Lomas Circle out to Grow Road.
We've discussed
Behind the
that.
cemetery in there, because that's all overgrown with trees and everything, and it's a hard time for that to drain.
yeah, and we're actually working with the Friends of the Detroit River and a variety of other nonprofit organizations, because there are grant funds available for some of that, to try to take advantage of some grant funding to do some work in that area to restore that, and to increase the effectiveness of the drainage network. But the work that was recently done at Hawthorne feeds to that area, and it was impeded. The flow was impeded significantly just by a lack of maintenance. So that has helped out significantly, at least getting it downstream and out of people's yards and neighborhoods. So that's the suggestion, I think, for drainage. I don't know, John, if you have anything further to add on that.
Great job.
So.
Yep, thank you for that.
Yep, so I think we're in a good financial position as long as we stay within the revenue that we have from the millages that have been authorized, at least for the next year or so. We can build fund balance up a little bit to get to a little better position where we can do maybe a few more aggressive projects, but as right now, we're kind of in a maintenance mode. So
I guess
that kind of
completes
concludes
that.
my report.
So I'm going to, Derek, we've been talking a long time about these projects. Everybody's had the memo from our engineers about a DPS projects update. Does anybody have any questions on that? It's really a lot of rehash of what's been going on over the past year or so. And I don't see much in here that's new, except we all know we awarded a new contract for sanitary sewer cleaning. And he mentions that. He talks about the past. So unless you have anything to add on that, John or Derek.
I do
We
not.
could probably just receive this report without going through it in detail. Is that okay with you, Derek?
Absolutely.
Then we have the water loss report. You want to comment on that?
I still need to get together with John and get some of the flushing quantities, because, we're looking higher than what we have been. And John and I just need to get together and go over that so that we can deduct those gallons from the report.
And regarding that, we're also currently flushing in the Church Road areas heading south. So if you have any discolored water, it's just because we're out there flushing. Just run your cold water until it clears up. And so I'll be getting those numbers to Derek, and we'll get that number adjusted for the lost water.
Okay, now it's time for your report.
I kind of jumped ahead a little bit there. So we're flushing, heading south. And then also, we're working on the drains there in the Meridian and Manchester area. And then also coming soon will be our lead service line confirmation, where we bring in the Vector truck and pothole down and verify the type of water line you have at your house. So those older areas will be seeing us out there very shortly. The engineer just got is reviewing the bonds and insurance for that company, so they're coming real soon. So we'll be starting that program.
So we'll have more of an update next month then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got to figure about 2 weeks it'll take them.
Okay. Good.
From that report that I just skipped over, your comment reminds me, we were going to do the manhole inspections. You were going to.
Or
Part of the SSES or part of the sewer evaluation, right? Go back a year and a half. You had
we
thought you were gonna
contracted
have
that
the
to
manpower to do
Fishback.
it,
Yes,
but it's
yeah, we
being-
we did some, and then we weren't keeping up fast enough, so they contracted to Fishback.
We're going to bid that out. And
Yes.
it's getting bids now, as far as you know?
bidding for,
Manhole inspection and
That'll-
repair work.
I mean, we
Oh,
we are
rehab.
bidding out the repair work.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
So utilizing that report to bid out the improvements and repairs, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I don't know when that's going to start.
Because it's the federal funding aspect that it provides additional complications, and they were working with EPA on making sure that the bid documents satisfied some of their requirements. There was some SHPO stuff that we had to address, which is absolutely ridiculous in my mind, but nonetheless, it still needed to be addressed. And I think Brent was working through that to make sure that everything was in good shape to bid it, so.
That's all I have, Bill. Thank you.
All you got? Okay, thanks. Next are discussion items. I don't know that we have any discussion items. Does anybody have any?
I just had one quick one. I think you and I had spoken about an event that's taking place in July, and you wanted to, I think, make a brief comment about roadside maintenance.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up right now then.
My apologies.
No, that's fine. I just want to mention that I learned, and I hope I have all these statistics correct, the Grosse Country Club, they have a big swim team, right? And they belong to a group in the metropolitan area that includes 14 swim teams. And this year, it's their, I don't want to say chance, their responsibility to host the big swim meet, which is going to be July 26th, 27th, 28th. This is apparently a big deal. They expect, and I know you've had several meetings with them, there are 14 clubs involved, including the Birmingham Country Club, Oakland Hills, Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. These are all children's swim teams. The Detroit Yacht Club swim team, the Country Club of Detroit swim team, Western Country Club, Dearborn Country Club, and several others. They're expecting, I don't know what you recall, Derek, but between 600 and 800 cars a day during the. I understand they've already petitioned to close Bellevue Road, by the course, and that they're going to park the cars on the driving range, or most of them. So there's going to be a huge amount of visitors here July 26th, 27th, 28th. Phil and I have talked about this before, but as we drive around, you come over the county bridge, and if you drive down Parkway or take the ramp to West River Road, we need to do some roadside maintenance. There's a couple of dead trees that are falling on Parkway between the end of the county bridge and Meridian, and there's tree trimming that's necessary. And I think this is the opportunity for us to do it. Tomorrow, John and I and Derek are going to drive the areas, but my notion is we need to make the island shine. We're going to have a lot of visitors here, and we need to do this work anyway. Phil and I have talked about cleaning up all the mowing. When you come off the ramp to West River, if you go north to the wastewater plant, clean all that area up, and even south towards Grove. So, and as well as Meridian, John. And so my view is that we need to really do some tree trimming, get the tree trimming contractor in here, sub it out. We've got the money for it. And cut back some of the overgrown bushes and limbs that are covering the street signs and so forth. Clean up the guardrail areas, and just so that by the end of July, when all these people are going to come visit our island, it would be good for economic development on the island and good for the reputation of the island to do our share of the roadside cleaning. So it's a big deal, and I think it gives us an incentive and an opportunity to spend our money wisely. We have the money, and get it all set up so we can clean it up. So those are my comments. Anybody have any comments?
No, I agree. I mean, especially that on the east side of West River Road going south from Parkway. That's now all overgrown. It's starting to go out into the street again. It just, that looks terrible, but get it.
Isn't that where the new bike path is gonna be going? They're gonna be cutting all that out of there.
Before July?
I thought they were supposed to start on that right away.
I haven't seen any activity other than a sign along the ramp coming down that,
If
I
you
don't know what
open
it
it up,
says.
that par three right there at the
The-
public
the
course,
bike-
Oakland Hills may get jealous of that
You
hole.
know,
You mean the first par three we see? Yeah.
Oakland Hills may want to go copy that. You may
Yeah.
want to keep that reserved.
Well, anyway, we're gonna have a lot of visitors, and
no, I think it's a good idea.
we have a quality community here, and we need to spruce it up. And so we're gonna be using roadside funds to do that, and try to, and John doesn't have the staff to do it. You know that. I mean, we're shorthanded.
I would like just to mention, you notice how we did clean up the west side of West River there along the marina and
Saw
all
that,
that.
absolutely.
Staff did a
Yeah.
great job on that, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, the problem on the east side, Phil, is that's all poison ivy. So we've been trying to contact our sprayer guy to come out and spray, and he hasn't gotten with us recently. Because we, even going by the treatment plant, our in-house staff did the guardrail on the west side again to cut it down, but we gotta spray it, because it's gonna keep coming back.
All right, well, we're gonna make whatever effort we can make, and just wanted to mention that. Even Bellevue, near the water's edge, I mean, it's really overgrown, and I don't know we want to spend our resources there, because Bellevue's gonna be closed. But
West River Road,
Can't make it
north
so
and south
close out
of
of the south
Bellevue
here.
is important, and then the ramp area. And,
Parkway,
Yep.
all the way, and even as you make the turn to go to the entrance of the country club.
Yep.
There's a lot of work that's needed on Meridian, at least on the west side of Meridian for a ways, up to Bellevue anyway. So, I know it'll get done, and I just wanted to mention that we're using some of our resources to do that. And I don't have anything else. I want to thank you, Derek, for the great work you did on our future planning report for all these capital projects. Gives us something to think about. And with that, we'll go around the table. Dave, you have anything?
no, sir.
Linda?
Everything was covered.
Phil?
Nothing.
No. No, sir.
Laz, we're waiting for you.
Well, the only thing I can say about that, you want to clean all that up, you can't make a silk purse out of the sow's ear.
No, well, we won't get into that. We don't have a sow's ear here. We have a lot of potential. And every once in a while, you gotta,
Well, you know, a
Clean it
lot of
up.
that stuff that you're talking about overgrown, or the county's the one that should be taking care of all that.
well, you know they aren't gonna do it.
No, they don't have the funding for it.
We can't even get them out here to clean. Look at our side of the bridge, the county bridge. We clean our side of it up, and we're going to. Look at their side,
Yeah.
the Trenton
You
side.
can't-
that's-
You can't even get on it coming east. It's just overgrown right to the sidewalk.
And as far as roadside mowing, the county in the past, before we start doing a lot of it, they come out once a year to mow roadsides. Now, that's not acceptable for Grosse Ile. So our DPS, our water department, we buy mowers and they do the roadside mowing. Otherwise, it won't be done. And that's true of it's just not us in Wayne County, it's all the other Wayne County communities. They show up once a year. And it's just, they don't have the money, so. We do it gladly, because we have a certain standard we want to keep up in this community, and people expect it, and it makes a big difference. So, with that, and I'll just mention one other thing, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Between, if you leave here on Grow Road and drive to Parkway, along the bike path, and even on the other side of the bike path, there are at least structures that come out of the ground that are AT&T's or the phone company structures. Several of them along the bike path don't have any cover at all. You have a mass of wires showing. Most of them are knocked over and need to be fixed. And tomorrow we'll look at those, and we need to make a contact with whoever it is. I don't know who it is anymore. Is it AT&T or I have no idea, but
Or those rectangular.
those rectangular boxes,
Sit up about.
the ones that are laying over on the ground.
Cable
And there's two of them at least along the bike path by Manchester that have no cover on them at all. They have 3 sides to it, and you can see 1,000 wires in there that are exposed to the elements.
There's one right here along Grove, too.
There's one along, right at the corner here, there's one
Yeah.
that's knocked over, and then the other side of the entrance into the soccer fields, there's one that's knocked over.
Maybe that should be referred to the Bike Path Commission.
Well, we should just get a hold of whoever we can find that's responsible for those and say, come out here and fix those boxes.
Right.
And I don't know who it is anymore.
Whatever
Do
they are.
you have any idea?
I don't even know who's in business anymore. Is it Ameritech? Is it?
Hey, Bill, I just want to share with you, there was this old guy that used to work at the water department. He retired a while ago. He used to say, you called the water department. What are you talking to me about phone lines for?
And he probably is the last person on the island with an actual house phone. So out of all those wires, yeah, so we need 2 wires out of all those.
Well, there you go. That's a good idea.
Out of the phone lines are all going to cable.
Yeah, they're all going voice over IP.
It's not like,
Yeah.
All right, well, the levity is good for our meeting, so at any rate, if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that
support.
motion that we adjourn.
Support?
Yeah.
All in
Everybody
favor?
supports.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.